Hello everyone, welcome to Teacher Resources to Go. My name is Carrie. I work at the Mount Airy branch of Carroll County Public Library, and I'm so happy that you could join me today. Teacher Resources to Go is designed to help you as a teacher, educator, caregiver, parent who may be homeschooling, whatever the case may be, help get some ideas for some lesson planning for this coming year. We know it's all going to be a little bit tricky. Some places have not decided yet whether they're going to be in person or virtual. Some families have already decided that they're going to be teaching primarily from home. So hopefully these resources will be able to help you no matter what your situation is and give you some fresh ideas. So it's great if you've been a long-time teacher and just need some new ideas, or if you're new to either educating a classroom of children or your own children. These will give you some great places to start. So first of all, I'll show you our resources page. Now you don't need to rush through this and copy everything down. I'll show you these at the end as well. These are pretty much the websites and places that we're going to explore together today. We of course have the Carroll County Public Library website, which is www.library.carr.org. And then I'll show you Overdrive and Libby and Hoopla, which are some of our online resources as well, where you can get ebooks and audiobooks instead of having the books in person. We won't be going super in depth into those. I do have some tutorials and some information on the previous teacher resources program that I put out in May. And we also have some boot camps that get a little bit more in depth with all of our online resources. But always send me some questions if you need help getting into those and haven't used those before. We'll just go over them briefly today. And then I'll show you some publisher resources as well as a website called Curious City and some individual author pages. And I will show you this page again at the end of the program as well. So just to cover a little snippet about copyright law and how you can use items. So copyright law can be very complicated, and this is not meant in any way as legal advice or permission to use whatever resources you want, and it can get a little bit tricky. Basically, copyright just covers publishers, authors, the creators of materials, so that their property, their intellectual property is covered and stays safe and isn't just distributed for free wherever you go. So if you've taught in a classroom before, you may be familiar with this already. You can certainly, if you own a book or take a book out from your school library or the public library, you can share that with your class. It is okay to read a book in front of a classroom. Right? It is not going to be okay to photocopy the pages of that book and send them home with your students so they each have a copy of the book, right? Because the authors and illustrators and publishers wouldn't be getting any money from that. Likewise, you couldn't make decorations for your classroom using photocopies or even do a Facebook program necessarily without the publisher's permission, where you're reading a book in its entirety or showing all of the artwork in its entirety. And the same goes for music and things like that as well. So again, this is not legal advice in any way, but just to give you a little bit of an idea of what you are allowed to do with resources. There's more information at copyright.gov, as well as the Library of Congress. They have, specific to teachers, some information. And then I will also show you a lot of publishers are loosening copyright restrictions right now during the pandemic because they know it's a little bit different when everybody's at home and we're having to broadcast things virtually, just like I'm doing now. Normally this would take place in a programming room. We'd be all in the same room and I could show you resources. And there wouldn't be any question necessarily about copyrights. But once you start taking pictures, posting pictures, sharing parts of stories publicly on YouTube or Facebook or whatever the format is, it gets a little bit gray and sticky. So I'll show you what Penguin Random House has said about their license extension as well. So let's go to that first. So again, I've included the link for you, but this is just a basic statement from Penguin Random House. It's their open license online storytime and classroom read aloud videos and live events information. They have officially extended this through December 31st. Now again, if you're homeschooling and going to be doing things in person with your own child, your own materials or materials checked out from the library, this doesn't apply as much. This is more directed at teachers that are going to be teaching classrooms, either face-to-face or virtually. So this will give you a little bit more information. And if you have any questions, I encourage you to take a look at this more in depth. This is kind of going to be the area right in here where there are story times, read aloud events, and things like that. So generally speaking, just to be on the safe side, when you're teaching in a classroom format and you're teaching virtually, as long as you're not physically copying any of the materials and redistributing them, that is okay. You can't physically copy them and redistribute them. And as long as you're not posting something that is going to be saved on the internet for all time and is open to the public, if you're just sharing a book or doing a read aloud with just your class in a closed circuit format, something that's not going to be recorded and posted publicly, something that is through like Office 360 on Teams or a Zoom meeting, those all fall within the copyright fair use policies. So if you ever have any questions, of course, Penguin Random House has information here that you can contact them, but just contact the publisher directly of the book and materials that you're trying to use, and they are really good about getting back to you and letting you know if you have permission to use them and what ways you're using them in. So that was a lot to say that there's a lot of gray area, but because everything is changing, we're getting a little bit more wiggle room from publishers. So let's move on to some actual resources. So the first place I'm going to show you, and the best place really that I always recommend people check out, which I don't think a lot of people know about, are that the publishers themselves often have a lot of teacher resources. And of course, these are going to fall within fair use because the publishers themselves are putting them out for promotional purposes. They put out reading guides, they put out all sorts of extra information and materials, and they're encouraging you and allowing you to print them off to use with your students. So the first one we'll look at is Random House Teachers and Librarians page here. It's just rhteacherslibrarians.com/resources. And if you scroll down, they really contain a lot of really great information. So I will just kind of show you a few examples of what I would maybe use in a classroom. So one of my favorite kind of poetry activity books is this book by Patricia McKissack and Brian Pinkney. Let's clap, jump, sing and shout, dance and spin and turn it out. Games, songs, and stories from an African American childhood. So these are just fantastic traditional poems, activities, clapping activities, and Random House has a teacher's guide. Now this isn't necessarily something that you would send out directly to your students, as you can see. This is really directed at the teachers, adults, educators directly. But it gives you a whole bunch of additional activities. It gives you things to talk about, and it gives you extra internet resources when you're using this book. This is a title that we have available through Carroll County Public Library in a physical format. Right now, even though the library is closed, you can use our express service. If you haven't used that yet, there is more information on our website, which let me go ahead and pull up our website. It's library.carr.org. So there's going to be information about our express pickup. I like to say it's really as easy as 1, 2, 3. You search for the book that you want, you place a hold on the book that you want, and once your hold is in, you schedule a time to pick up that hold. And we have 3 times throughout each day, Monday through Saturday, where you can schedule to pick up your hold at your particular branch. And it's all contactless, and it's just a fantastic service. We've had so many of you using this over the past couple of months, and it's just wonderful. Now, some of our other resources that I'll be showing you as well, if we don't have a physical copy, or maybe you prefer an ebook or audiobook version, we do, under collections, have ebooks and digital content. And this is where I was talking about initially with Overdrive, which you see here is this first one. And that's our Maryland Digital E-Library Consortium. Libby is just the app that goes with it. So like I have the Libby app on my phone. It's a little bit more user-friendly. It's a little updated and looks cooler. But you can always just use the Overdrive app as well. And there will be e-audiobooks and e-books available on there. And then another source for ebooks and audiobooks is Hoopla. So if you're ever searching for a book and we don't have it physically, you can double check to see if we have it in ebook format. It should show up in our catalog if we have an ebook. And I'll just type in, let's clap, jump, sing, and shout. And you can see that we have one in our system. And then you can place a request. And like I said, once your request is in, your hold is in, we will contact you with a link where you can set up your time for express pickup. So that's one of the resources that they have on Random House. Another one that they have for older kids, and they really do have all ages on here. It's always fun to pick out the picture books activities because they're really active and bright and colorful, but there are a lot of reading guides as well. A popular author that I know a lot of teachers do read-alouds with are Carl Hiaasen. And so this is for Carl Hiaasen's books. It's basically an author study and focuses some questions on the newest book, Squirm. So there's Hoot, Flush, Chomp, and Squirm. There's some pre-reading activities. Again, this isn't something that you would necessarily print out and hand to your student directly or send out with the online materials. It's more geared toward the adult. And something that I'll point out here and in another publisher site that we look up is that a lot of these publishers will directly list what Common Core standards each of these activities aligns with. So that really is a shortcut for you public school teachers especially. It's just fantastic that they list it there with the activities that they have. So the next publisher site I'm going to show you is Penguin. We are super lucky in Carroll County because we do have Penguin Random House headquartered in Carroll County. So they're just a wonderful organization. Right now they've donated the summer reading prizes, the books. They're the ones who provide these. Penguin Random House does. So this is the Penguin faction of Penguin Random House Young Readers. And again, they have a teaching guide section for educators, teachers, librarians, and the website's here, but also on our resource page. It's penguin.com/school-library/teaching-guides-activity-kits. So that one's a little bit longer. You can always look it up under the different grades, and they have more information below. Since we looked at the Common Core information on Random House's site, I'm just going to pull up they actually have it called out over here, Common Core lesson plans, so that you can specifically see the lesson plans that correlate to their Common Core. And I'm just going to pull up this first one, the featured guide for the Inquisitor's Tale. If you haven't read Adam Gidwit's Inquisitor's Tale, it's a really fun book. It takes place in the Middle Ages. It's fictional. He does have kind of like a really dynamic writing style that really engages kids. He did A Tale Dark and Grim, that trilogy. He has the books now with collaborating with other authors for younger readers, the Unicorn Rescue Society. But this is the reading guide for the Inquisitor's Tale. And what's really cool about this book, I really think that it's fantastic for 5th, 6th, and 7th graders because it's one of those in-between mid-grade books that really is great for reluctant readers because it's so fun, but it's really got a lot of meat in it. It would be fantastic for a read aloud. Again, you could use our express service and get a physical copy of the book if you don't already have one or can't get it through your school library, or you can access it on one of our digital resources. So for the Inquisitor's Tale, we actually have copies available on the Libby app for Overdrive. So Overdrive or Libby, or you can get a physical copy if you're going to do a read aloud. So again, it's a little bit tricky this year if you're going virtual with your class, but it would still fall within fair use if you do a class read aloud of a book. So say you have either a physical copy or an ebook copy that you've checked out from the library, and you're doing a virtual class that's live on a closed circuit, again, like Teams 365 or Office 365 through Teams or a Zoom meeting. As long as you're not posting it publicly just for anybody to be able to view, if it's just for you and your class, it's almost just like if you were in your own classroom reading a read aloud to your students. Again, you wouldn't be able to like photocopy it and make a PDF and send it to all your kids virtually or anything like that, so that they'd each have their own copy, but you could do a group activity where you're sharing it aloud live to your students. Again, this teacher's guide, it has the Common Core standards that match up with each activity, and just has really great questions. It's a fantastic book. If you haven't read it, I highly encourage that you do. And the back matter in it, even though it's a fictional book, he really did a lot of research. Something that I always recommend too, and I'll show you here as well, if you want to take this even farther with your class or your student, you can check out a lot of authors have really fantastic websites. So this is Adam Gidwitz's website. It's just adamgidwitz.com. It has information on his book. We have the Inquisitor's Tale here. There are resources for the Inquisitor's Tale. There's About Adam, which is the page that we're on. Adam did grow up in Baltimore, so we like to claim him as a local author. He has a lot of information about why he became an author and that journey. And then also under his book, he'll talk about not just the book, but also what gave him the ideas for writing the book. For the Inquisitor's Tale, because there was so much research that he did, we have the Educator's Guide here. We have a review here, and there's an annotated bibliography that he has. He has all this information about where this story came from. And what's really cool, if you wanted to, again, take it another step with your students, he's really an accessible author. He has a podcast, he's on social media. I know that can kind of get tricky with a student class with recommending social media, but you can always recommend the author's website and students can contact him directly. So after you're done doing a class read aloud, doing a little extra research with the bibliography, and then students can actually contact him via email there. So a super way to kind of extend out that activity. So back to Penguin. for their reader's guides. Just to show you another example that we have here, I'll go back to Common Core again. And this would be another one of my very favorite authors, Jacqueline Woodson. So this is a guide to the works of Jacqueline Woodson. She is prolific. She has picture books, she has mid-grade books, she has YA books, she has adult books. She is a poet. She has some books that are written in verse and some that are in prose. She really covers just about everything. She was the Young Person's Literature Ambassador for a time. She's gotten tons of awards. So she really covers a lot of bases. Again, just to focus on slightly older kids, she does have YA books here for your high school classes, if you want to update your high school reading recommendation list. But I really feel like the mid-grade book she has, Brown Girl Dreaming, which is written as poetry, it's written in verse, is beautifully, beautifully done and autobiographical about Jacqueline's life growing up. That would be a great read aloud for older elementary and middle school. And Harbor Me would be an awesome read aloud for elementary age kids, so 3rd, 4th, 5th grade as well. So this is really a really long PDF that they have for Jacqueline's works here. You can see there's a dive and discuss, explore and extend, just with Harbor Me. And again, they list the Common Core curriculum tie-in. And again, if you want to extend this, because Jacqueline is such a prolific writer, she has a lot of information on her website. And something that I saw a lot of educators doing in the spring, once we went virtual, if you as an educator don't have time or just want to kind of mix things up with reading to your kids, there are a lot of resources online. Here I've just searched YouTube because Jacqueline's such a prolific writer. She has been to so many award ceremonies and spoken from her books. This is just from YouTube on the Penguin Middle School page. So this is directly from the publisher. You always know materials that are put out directly from the publisher are fine to share with your students because the publisher is encouraging you to share them. So this is just Jacqueline Woodson talking about Harbor Me. So that's just a fantastic short little clip with Jacqueline, but there really are a ton of resources on a lot of these authors. So that was from the Penguin website. Now I'm going to show you just briefly another one of my favorite websites. Let me go to their homepage here. And I did share this one. In May, I did a teacher resource class online, all virtual, that you can access on our Facebook page as well if you want more information. But Curious City is actually a small company out of Maine, and they are basically commissioned, they're contracted with publishers to create extension materials to go along with books. So usually these are used for like book promotion in bookstores, with libraries and in schools. But you can see over here on the right side, there's a home learning and play section. These are all free, and they are encouraging you, even if you're just an individual, if you're homeschooling, if you're parenting, to use these resources. So again, this is for all ages. They have picture books, they have middle grade, they have YA materials. You can divide it by age or by topic. And these are professionally done, so they're really beautiful. And what I really love about these is that they are so beautiful and professionally done and they're mostly done in PDF format, so you can send them directly out to your families. So here I'm just going to look up, she's not quite local, she's in Northern Virginia, another favorite author of mine, Maria Gianferrari. She does nonfiction picture books for the most part, and it's really like narrative fiction in picture book format, or I'm sorry, narrative nonfiction in picture book format. And they're just so beautifully done. We have a lot of her books physically at the library, which again, you can use that express service to pick up. Or you can use the ebook versions through our online resources. So I'm just going to pull up this one first, Hawk Rising. This would make a fantastic addition to a citizen science unit if you do those in your classrooms. You can see here, she'll list right at the beginning what grades and ages these are good for. So this is elementary age. It really has a wide range. For Hawk Rising, there are all sorts of downloadable activities. So this first one, Spot a Hawk Rising. And again, these are just in PDF format. You can just download them and go and share them with your students. And it's all provided for free. I did double check. This book is about red-tailed hawks, and all the information in it is red-tailed hawks, and we do have them here in Maryland year-round. So it'll be fantastic, like I said, for a citizen science sort of unit. And then there is also a glider with instructions how to make it. So for example, again, you could check the physical book out, use our express service from the library, and read it aloud to your students. Show them the pictures while you're doing a live classroom, whether it's in person or virtually. Again, as long as it's not put out there in its full format publicly. And then there's another book by Maria through Curious City that I wanted to show because the game that they did with it is just so adorable. And we have this book in both physical format and ebook format. The ebook format is on Hoopla, which again is just another online resource that we have under those ebook and digital collections. So play like an animal. There's a STEM game card prompt. And then what's even better is there's a read aloud right on the page by the author. So you'll So it's really fantastic. This is a great one to watch with younger classes. So Play Like an Animal, it has the game cards to play along. I know physical education is going to be really tricky this fall if you're teaching publicly and trying to incorporate physical activity. So this is a great way to get some reading in and get some action in. This would make for like a great Zoom meeting game where you have the cards and you can play with the kids. But it's like ready to go when it's professionally done. It's really fantastic and fun. So you could share the video if you don't have time for a read aloud. You could share the video of the author reading the book, or you could do a read aloud with your class. And again, this one we have in physical book format or on Hoopla. Those are some of the resources that we have for you today. We're going to be sharing more all through the month of August. And I imagine that we'll be doing this again in the fall as well. You can let me know in the comments if there are particular topics or age groups that you want me to focus on. And the library really does have a lot of resources, so it would take us years and years to get through all of these. But it's fun to show you some resources that we have in Carroll County Public Library and how you can connect those to publisher resources, to author pages, and to other pages out there on the internet that are reputable sources and aren't violating copyrights and are free and available to everyone. So thank you for joining me today, and I hope you have a great day and good luck with your education planning, and have a lot of fun with it. And let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for joining us.